This is your latest Manchester United transfer news. Big news about Paul Pogba. I'll be coming into a moment. We've also got a call in tonight. You can call in and have your say. I'd like some people to call in and tell us why fan channels are so toxic. This seems to be the issue at the moment. Also news on a potential contract for Jesse Lingard. Thoughts about that. Havertz from Bayer Leverkusen. A little bit about the squad tomorrow. But let's fly into it. I know a lot of people want to know this. So Pogba going nowhere. There's a story that's come out this morning. I think it's from the Daily Mail saying that Manchester United expect to lose Paul Pogba. They're looking at bringing in Donny van der Beek and Saul Niguez, and people have been talking about that today. However, this is not I'm not saying that that's not going to happen, but I've been speaking to somebody today, and if you remember from the summer, there was a couple of times we got information from the club. Not directly, I can't name names. This is somebody that we've spoken to from a source, I should say. And this has happened a couple of times on the United stand. If you remember, in about May time, when me and Flex we played at Old Trafford. We spoke to a few people then, and the message was that there's money there to be spent, and we're really optimistic, and Ollie's at the wheel. And then later on in the summer, we were like, the tour's gone really well. We're really happy with the squad that we've got. I was also told by this person in August that Manchester United were never in for Bruno Fernandes, and I don't necessarily believe that. But in relation to Paul Pogba, what I've been told today is that Paul Pogba is going nowhere. Manchester United are not going to be selling Paul Pogba. This nonsense that's out there that Pogba could go in January, there is absolutely zero chance that Manchester United will let Paul Pogba go in January. The only way that will happen is if Paul Pogba goes mercenary and basically refuses to play and chucks a transfer request in and does something that nobody expects Paul Pogba to do. The reality is Paul Pogba may well be looking to leave United long term, but his professionalism at the club has never been in doubt from people within the club. They've got no issues with Paul Pogba in that sense. They expect him to be playing before the end of the year. They expect him to be a big part of Manchester United's season. There is no way that he's going to be going in January, and whilst they may be looking to bring midfielders in, Paul Pogba will not go in January, and the hope within the club is that Paul Pogba will see the vision and future that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Manchester United are building and will sign a contract. A contract is there for Paul Pogba to sign. There is a reluctance from Pogba to do that because obviously he said in the summer that he would like to go. I personally, my feeling on this, I don't know about yours, this is not speculation, this is what we've been told. I thought Pogba should have been sold in the summer. I thought it was a mistake, and I think it's been shown to be a mistake. He wanted to go 3 years in. The relationship had not soured, but I think they tried and it hadn't worked. And I think that we should have let him go and we should have brought midfielders in. And I think that's been highlighted even more by the fact that Pogba's been injured for most of this season. However, it's looking like he's going to come back. And as I say, for those people joining a little bit late, I've been told today from a United source that Paul Pogba goes nowhere in January unless he does something ridiculous, which they are 99% sure he will not do, which is like a transfer request. There's no way he's leaving Manchester United in January. They are looking to, they may well be looking to bring midfielders in. I was going to say they are going to bring midfielders in, and I'll get in all sorts of trouble. They're looking to bring midfielders into the club long term, but that is not to replace Paul Pogba in January. What happens in the summer, who knows, but they are looking to convince Paul Pogba that his future is at Manchester United. I personally think Pogba will go in the summer, but I'm not 100% sure he's going to go in the summer, and I'm not 100% sure he won't sign a new contract, because United selling Pogba will take Woodward, all next summer. Look how slow we are at doing deals, and Pogba's a big deal. And it's not a player coming in, it's a player going out. So I'm not convinced Pogba even goes in the summer, but definitely not in January. What are your thoughts about that? Off topic, but I have to say I'm loving the Blood Brothers. Good luck against ETFC as he's total div and needs silencing. United stand FC for the title, says Daniel Brinley. Thanks for the contribution. That's a weekly video that's going out. Pogba is a baller. Fools, he will only make us better, says Shresh Banerjee. Pogba in and Ollie out, says Davian Francis. Pogba out, says Irish Pride. Pogba's a great player. You're all going to lose out. I have enjoyed Pogba's stay, to be honest. One of the best goals has him in it. I'm getting lots of positivity for Pogba. Oh no, Pogba out, Tyrone Williams. Sell Pogba, says Finbar Martin. Pogba out, says Liz Bill. And what do you think of Saul Niguez to United, Mark? Think he would be a lot better than Pogba, says Galen Haste. Well, look, part of the reason, I personally believe that information from within the club is not really what fan channels should be about. Fan channels about fan opinion. So getting information from within the club, because Manchester United Football Club's massive. There's people who get information about the youth setup. There's people who get information because the club wants to put out. There's a lot of people who work for the club. There's a lot of people who work for the club who are watching this video now. And, you know, tight lips sink ships, and information comes out. There's, you know, people who are talking about it on Twitter aren't necessarily lying. There are a lot of people who do. I don't personally believe that, you know, information from the club is that useful for a fan channel. And also, I certainly wouldn't be one of these people who charge you £5 a month to get it. It's the information that's coming from the club. The club own that information. It's ridiculous to say, oh, pay me £5 a month and I'll give you some information about Manchester United. Very different if it's like £5 a month and for content that's exclusively about the channel, but I don't agree with that. But I also don't really agree that information from the club is good for fan communities, because that's what MUTV and everything else is for, and we're fans at the end of the day. But I do feel that this is important information, and that's why I've shared it, because I don't really ask for that much from people that I speak to. I'm not really that bothered. You know, the information I got about Bruno Fernandes wasn't from the club. That was from a journalist that I really trust, and I still believe that United were in for him and they pulled out. I think that's what happened, and I don't care what the club leak out. I don't believe that. I don't. But the Pogba thing I think is important, and the reason I've shared that today is because you know where I stand. I could have just ignored it and allowed an agenda to develop that I think Pogba should go. I think, you know, I respect Pogba. I think he should be allowed to go. But the club stance, as we understand it, is that Pogba 100% will not go in January. They want him. They wouldn't mind him signing a new contract, but nothing's happening in January. And I think that story from the Daily Mail really is just a typical story, isn't it, to make people think. I mean, do you really think we're going to sign Saul Niguez and Van der Beek in January and sell Paul Pogba? I mean, that would be the biggest January transfer window in history. You're going to have to pay over £100 million for Saul Niguez. You're going to have to get Ajax to lose one of their best players in January, and then you're going to sell Paul Pogba in January. It's just not going to happen. So I think it's important information, because I've got to admit I'm somewhat perplexed by the hate towards Paul Pogba. I would call it hate because I read it on social media. I think at the end of the day, Paul Pogba has always been a professional footballer for Manchester United. He's been an inconsistent one, but he's always been a professional footballer for us. He's not faked this injury. I think, you know, that's a nonsense. I think he should have been sold in the summer, so I'm not pro Pogba should be here. I think he should have been allowed to go. We forced him to stay. He's then got an injury. I think in the long term he probably will go, but for now, if he can come back and be fit, he makes our team better. And I personally just want Manchester United to get in the top four and be in the Champions League next year. And I think Pogba could help us do that. And if he does and he decides to stay, then, you know, why is that a bad thing? This is awful news. Pogba's talent, but he's not the man to move us forward at this point. I had a small glimmer of hope that we'd use the money we'd get for selling him to bring in someone like Niguez, says Tommy B. Brandon Casey says, even an unmotivated Pogba is leagues better than Lingard, Pereira and Mata. Sell him in the summer for 150 million and bring in Maddison and Sancho. Milverton Richard says, for the first time in his United career, Paul Pogba has the stage and it's his platform to showcase what everyone we're waiting for. He will unlock another level in regards to Fred. And Daniel Brindley says, United stand provide a platform for his fans to voice an opinion. It's us that pay into the club, not journalists. Why should we be denied a say? Good point on that, Daniel. And what I would say about all three comments about Paul Pogba there as well, look, if you want Pogba to go, I think he may well go in the summer. But I would agree with the other two people as well. Pogba's got a platform this time. This team has been and beaten Manchester City and Tottenham without Pogba. I think that's the first time we've done that in the last 3 years. Gone and beaten Man City at the Etihad without Pogba. So Pogba comes back into this team, and actually the pressure is alleviated in some sense because we've done it without him. So, you know, when Pogba plays, there's always, Pogba's had a bad game, Pogba's not doing very well. So there is a platform for him there. And also, I agree with that point as well. Pogba's better than Mata, Lingard and Pereira. So if Pogba comes back between now and May, it makes Manchester United better. And you know what? The scenario I would like to see is this. Pogba comes back, stays fit till May because of the Euros for France. He performs consistently well for us. He gets us into the top four. We let him go, and then we build on from there. That's what I would like to see. I think that's what Solskjaer wants to see, and I think ultimately that's what will happen at United. But for United to let Pogba go in January would have been a ridiculous thing to do, because we simply cannot do these deals like Saul Niguez and Havertz and everyone else in January. That's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Mark, the shows over the last few days have been excellent, mate. Much appreciated. Keep it up, says Martin Mason. Thank you. We are going to take your calls in a few minutes, which is on the Discord link. The link is on the in the video description for that. Also, I must just say, I've totally forgotten about this. It's Christmas. Are you hanging up? I should get my guitar out. Are you hanging up? No, I'm not going to do that really. What I was going to say is that, yeah, you can get your 5 Cantonars jumper. The link is in the video description for that. We've also got t-shirts and everything else, which I will show you in a moment, so check those out. Matt Rush says Pete Pogba could struggle to force his way back in. Ollie might be saying prove yourself, Paul, and you might get your move. Clever from Ollie, win-win for us, says Matt Rush. Well, I've got to be absolutely honest. This is the worst Premier League season we've ever had, and start, and Paul Pogba is just miles ahead of anything we've got in that team, apart from probably Rashford, Martial and De Gea on talent. So Paul Pogba walks straight back into that team. And look, I'm going to talk about Jesse Lingard now very quickly. If anybody thinks Jesse Lingard or Pereira or Mata benches Pogba, football's not for you. I mean, Jesse Lingard is just average. I wouldn't sell Lingard. I think he works in certain games, and you know, as a bench player, that's probably his limit. But let's not pretend Jesse Lingard's not been very poor for 2 years. He played very well against Manchester City because it was a perfect storm game for him. It was exactly the same as Arsenal away in January. A team that plays a high line and doesn't protect in front of its back four, where Jesse Lingard can get the ball and spin and run into space. That's where Messi Lingard had that 2 months 2 years ago, because teams didn't really understand the strength of Lingard. Lingard's strength is, give me the ball, let me spin, run into space, get a shot off or get a pass off. Lingard looks good when he's running at a back four from the halfway line, because he can shoot from distance and he can play a pass. Anybody can when they're running at goal. Where Lingard has struggled over the last 18 months is that teams have figured him out and they sit back and he's got no creativity in tight spaces. So Lingard is a particular game option, and he can't do that every week because he's been figured out in that sense. He only works against teams that are so arrogant that they think we're not bothered about him, like Man City, and it bit them on the backside, didn't it? So Pogba and Lingard is just like a Ford Fiesta and a Ferrari. They're totally different. So, of course, Pogba walks straight back into the team while he's a United player. 4A says Pogba has been a constant scapegoat by thick fans. They hate him more than the Glazers. Mind-boggling. Keep up the good work, Mark. I'm looking forward to Pogba coming back. I almost don't want to say these words because they're open to ridicule, but he's been out so long. He's like a new signing. And I hate myself for saying that. I absolutely hate that statement. It's like a new signing. It's not a new signing because he's been here for 3 years. But he's not. Why he is like a new signing is a new signing. When Ollie said he's like a new signing, it annoyed me because we were playing badly. I think the statement works well. And Ollie's not said it now. I'm saying it. And it works well when your team's doing well. So when we've beaten Spurs and Man City, and if Pogba came back now, he's like a new signing because we're playing well and then you add a player of that quality in. But he's not really a new signing, is it? It's just we've not seen him for a while. But I'm looking forward to getting him. Talking about new signings, the Lingard new contract story has reared its head today. I'm tempted to say reared its ugly head. This doesn't surprise me either. This is something we mentioned a couple of months ago. United have been working on a new contract for Jesse Lingard for a considerable length of time. And if you remember a couple of months ago, what I said was United will not further this contract until Jesse Lingard has a good game. I think they've probably been waiting for 8 months to sort of further this, but he finally did have a good game against Man City, hence the Jesse Lingard new contract comes out. Now, as I've just said, I've got no problem with Jesse Lingard staying at Manchester United. I think he's a very average player, and I would argue that with anybody, but I don't really I wouldn't mind selling him. I don't mind if he stays. What I would say is, why does Jesse Lingard deserve a new contract? He got one 18 months ago. Why does he deserve a new contract? Now, the one he signed 18 months ago must have been at least 3, 4, 5 years. So why are we giving him a new contract? Can I just be honest here and say, why are we giving Jesse Lingard a new contract? Forget how bad he's been on the pitch. Let's be totally honest. The queue is empty. There's nobody queuing up to sign Jesse Lingard. We don't need to give him a new contract. It's not like Rashford or Martial. Let's get him on a new contract because someone wants to buy them. Nobody wants to sign Jesse Lingard, so why are we giving him a new contract? Why are we giving a player that got a new contract 18 months ago, who's been very average or poor for 18 months, who nobody wants to buy, why are we giving him a new contract? It's really odd. I'm not even, I'm not Matich fed up about it. I'm just like, I don't get it. It's poor business sense yet again from Manchester United. But maybe some of you disagree with that. Pogba is slow. We need a fast number 10 to make Fab 4. This is John Miguel. I think long term Pogba as a number 10 wouldn't work, but at the moment in this current team will. Pogba hate is unwarranted, media to blame and our own fans fueling the hate. Sickening, even though he hasn't played for months, it's always his fault. Well, I do agree with that in some sense, because his injury has not been managed very well by the club. There's been too much confusion and grey area over Pogba's injury, and that's allowed people to think that he's faking the injury, and even this ridiculous story that he'll never play for United again. That's even got legs. As I said at the start, Pogba's going nowhere. Also, I think it's the same with Martial and Rashford. Rashford never got criticised. Martial plays really well this season, has a bad game against Villa, and suddenly he's lazy again. And must just say, lazy is a bad word to use against players like Martial and Pogba and everything like that. It's got historical connotations in relation to things such as slavery and things like that, and lazy is not a good word, and people should educate themselves on why calling black players lazy is not a good thing to do. I was at the Ryan Giggs event, and I only educated myself on this quite recently. I was at a Ryan Giggs event, me and Flex were there, we were talking to Matt Murray, the ex-goalkeeper, and he explained to me why it pisses him off when people call people like Martial and Pogba lazy, because they don't do it in relation to people like, Dan James or a Scott McTominay, who are actually bad examples of being lazy. But I no longer like it when people call black players, especially Martial and Pogba, lazy, because I think it is a word that does get associated with these foreign black players at Manchester United that I don't see being used a lot in relation to other players, and I think it's a bad word. I do. Also, let's talk about Havertz of Bayer Leverkusen. A story coming out from Germany today, funnily enough, about this, that United are very interested in Havertz. Now, I don't like this story. I like Havertz. Anyone who watched my FIFA career mode, I had Havertz as my number 10. Very, very talented young player from Germany. I think he's going to be a superstar. But he's already come out and said that, Toni Kroos has mentioned Real Madrid, and he's already mentioned that staying in Germany would be better for him because of friends and family. Bayern Munich hoover up talent in the Bundesliga, and they've been doing it for decades. So Havertz to Bayern Munich looks absolutely bang on obvious to me. So I don't like that United are linked with these sort of players, because it just feels, again, like I said about Saul Niguez last night, when we United start getting linked to these sort of players, I just think, are these stories being put out there to make us get excited, but then you go, oh, we tried but we couldn't get them? I will tell United now, Havertz is ungettable. I know Ed Woodward said a couple of years ago, United can do anything they want. Havertz is ungettable. If they were to sign a player like that, I would stand up and applaud for a minute. He's ungettable. He's ungettable. And the fact that we're linked to him makes me worried about what business we're actually going to do if we're being linked with players like that. Is there a language barrier with Solskjaer? As a Norwegian, I rarely hear the same things as the British fans are hearing him say. What's up with that? Says Andy Sowat GG. Well, if you've missed Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's press conference reaction, you can watch that on the United Stand after this. I have mentioned that before. I do think that Ole, although he's got a very big history in England, I do think his sentences you can't take literally sometimes. Like, there was a couple of things he said today I think doesn't stand out. Are we getting Bruno Fernandes? Says it's flavour. I don't think so. But just finally, before I start taking some of your questions, quite a strong squad for United tomorrow. The training squad included a lot of first teamers, which we haven't had in the last few games. So Wan-Bissaka, Harry Maguire, Lindelof, McTominay, Fred, Rashford, Martial, Dan James, all training as part of the squad for tomorrow's game. I think that's a big thumbs up from me. I don't think we can afford to take this game lightly. I think we've got to draw or win the game. We've got to finish top of our group, because it's all right people saying, oh, you've got to beat everybody in the end, but it's like, do you want a hard route to the final or an easier route to the final? And do you want to be playing Inter Milan or Ajax in the first knockout stage, or do you want to play them in the final? And that's the option for us. We're top of the group. We must come out of tomorrow night's game top of the group. Think Martial can become a world-class striker, says Orlando Anglin. Yes, I do. I think he has got that potential to be that. I do. I really do. Right, I'm going to take some of your questions, but we're also going to do the Discord call-in as well. Please do smash a like on the video. We've got callers coming in as well now. We have already qualified Jonathan Gallagher, but we haven't qualified top of the group. the two best teams, and I get tired of this. I really get tired of this. I think maybe people are tired and they don't understand it. So in the Champions League and the Europa League, you've got first and second qualify for the next stage, right? It's the same in the Europa League. If you finish top of your group, you get an easier draw in the next round. If you come second in your group, you can play teams who finished first in their group and also teams that come down from the Champions League, i.e. Inter and Ajax and whoever else drops down tonight. If United lose to AZ Alkmaar tomorrow night, they will finish second in the group and leave themselves open to a harder game where they can play Ajax and Inter and everyone who finished top of their group. If they finish top of their group, they avoid that. That's what we're talking about. Welcome to the United Stand. There is a link in the video description for Discord if you want to get in the calling queue. And we're going to start pulling people in now. I've just got to land myself in the queue first of all. Live show, there we go. I'm actually just going to grab Paul straight away and get him in. Paul, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Just thought I'd let you open up the show because you do a lot of work in relation to pulling people into the waiting queue.
Sure.
Anything particular you want to talk about tonight? Do you want me to chuck something at you?
Yeah, carry on. I mean, you wanted to talk about fan channels, didn't you?
Oh, yes. I mean, let me just say this. Once again, we find ourselves at the cusp of Champions League spot. I'm afraid we will blow it failing to bring players in January. Our players will tire by May, says Onyiki and Mika. And we're going to get Ancelotti. Are you ready for New Year's Day while you are stuck with Ollie, says Zayn Miassi. That's an Arsenal fan thinking he's getting Ancelotti. Apparently you're not, Zayn, so I just want to sit you down there very quickly. You're not getting Ancelotti. But just quickly, that's a good point. Last season, I think we both were talking about this last January, that we needed to sign players. We didn't do it. We had a massive injury crisis in February and March, and we missed out on top four. How confident are you? There's a lot of talk around Manchester United in January signings. How confident are you that we're actually going to do business in January?
Not at all, Mark. Not at all. Unfortunately, it's just seeing it too much. Why should we be confident that we're going to do business in January? If we should be confident we're going to do business in January because there's publications and there's clickbait out there, then we've seen it all before. So sorry for being negative, but until I see it, until I see substance, then I think January is a very hard time to buy. And if we couldn't buy in the summer when we had 3 months to do it, and we couldn't get the right players that we wanted, apparently none were available, then why is January going to be any different when teams don't want to let anyone go?
It is interesting, and I'll throw it to the live comments. Actually, I just want to sort of, while we're talking, the one thing I would say is, and I said it this morning, who are we going to sign in January? Because if anyone in the live comments, just chuck names that you think are realistic that United will sign. Don't start chucking in Havertz or Saul Niguez or James Maddison, because they're not going to happen. They're impossible to do in January. So that's my issue, Paul. It's like, I think United want to do business in January, but it's what business they can
Ericsson.
do. Yeah,
Ericsson is one which we can do. But Ericsson, again, I mean, do we want Ericsson? If we buy Ericsson, are we buying Ericsson because he's the perfect fit and he'll improve us in the exact way we want? Or are we buying Ericsson because he's available and he's cheap?
Well, a lot of people in the live comments are starting to chuck names in, and I must admit, Bruno Fernandes has come up. I'd be very happy with that. Jack Grealish has come up. I don't even think Villa want to sell players in January.
We'll get mugged off for Villa. Grealish, they'll quote us 60, 70, 80 million quid for Grealish, guaranteed.
But with regards to Ericsson, I've had my say. I feel he's just the Sanchez point two, where no doubt, and he's a good player. No doubt he could be a good signing, but he's around the same age Sanchez was. He's another player that United fans are taking on reputation and not actually looking at his recent form. And Spurs aren't that bothered. So I just, we're trying to build a rebuild, and we're going to take somebody else's effectively deadwood, because Spurs don't really care if Ericsson goes. That's from their fans, and they're the best people. So I think Ericsson is a dangerous one. I really do. Is it me that just thinks we'll sign no players, said Luke Haynes? Well, apparently not. You do think that's a possibility as well, Paul?
Yeah, well, I do. I do think we'll sign nobody because, and I'm not that bothered, to be honest. But I'd say my biggest gripe at the moment is signing in January, signing in the summer. If we keep extending players like Lingard, Matich and Pereira, and they make up the basis of our squad, adding a couple of extra players on top of there, won't make us winners. That was one point I did want to bring up, because there's talk about Lingard's contract being extended, and in my opinion, they've just waited until you put a tweet out. They're waiting for a couple of good games from Lingard before they announce it.
Yeah.
So then they don't get embarrassed with the way he's been playing for a year. But if we keep keeping the nucleus of the squad that hasn't achieved anything over the last 3 or 4 years, we keep extending everyone there, adding a couple more players, it won't make us title challengers. It will just keep us relevant, and that's my biggest concern.
Yeah, well, if you look about it, I saw your message earlier. Mata, Pereira, Phil Jones, now Lingard. That's 4 players. That's 4 senior players, and 4 players in a 25-man squad is what you're getting up for. 20, 10, 15, 20% of your players are just not good enough. And that Lingard contract has been known for months. Everyone's known that's been worked on, and I agree. They've just waited for this opportunity where he's had a good game, where people are saying, and it is just one game in his last probably 50, 60.
Well, do you know what? I didn't plan on coming on and being negative, because there's really positive vibes going on at the moment. But there's little bits in the media that are being drip fed, which I can just see coming. It's like they will reuse the Pogba cash to strengthen the midfield when we sell Pogba. We can't do that. We can't get Pogba cash and then spend the Pogba cash for the midfielders, because then we've already lost 3 midfielders. We spend the Pogba cash plus 100 million extra. That's what we need to do. So I can just see little drip fed things in the media, which I'm frightened of happening. But I can see, a vision of the Glazers rather than a vision of the fans want. But yeah, sorry for coming on and being so negative, but the January signing just kind of threw me a little bit. I wanted to chat about how good our players have been at the moment, but yeah.
No worries, Paul. Thanks for coming in and just giving your say, and I'll speak to you again soon, mate.
Cheers, mate. Bye.
Cheers, Paul. I don't think it is negativity anyway. I think apparently fan channels are negative. If someone wants to come on and talk about that, I do want to talk about that. But Miss Smiler says, would you trade Matich for Ericsson? Yeah, I would. I'd trade Matich for Mrs. Ericsson. And I know there were some rumours about her and Vertonghen, but I would trade her for Matich, and I would, yeah. But I don't necessarily want Ericsson, if I'm absolutely honest. And also, to be fair to Paul, things are positive at the moment, but as United fans, we've become well trained in this. As soon as things start to look good, United do bad things because they wait for positivity. They're tactical, they're political. Most football clubs are. They wait for the right time to announce something. So this Lingard contract has been worked on for a long time. If they'd announced it over the last 3 months, there would have been uproar. If you wait for Lingard and United to have a good game, then it doesn't get as much of a reaction. Some people will still moan about it, but it doesn't get as much as a reaction. So we are almost trained in this fear of when United are doing well, what's the club going to announce that they've been holding back while we've been playing badly. So yeah, I do agree with that. Zayn Miasi, Mark, did you see Simon Jordan's attack on fan channels? He knows as much about football as Woodward and Stan Kroenke. And Weddy Filippo Programmers is our latest member. Thanks for joining. You can become a member of the United Stand by clicking the join button. Fellaini to Spurs, says Luke Haynes. I love it. I love it if Fellaini goes somewhere else, because I'm just glad that he's not at United. So I would love that to happen. If people want to call in on the fan channel stuff, that's absolutely fine. I was talking to Flex this morning, actually. A lot going on in the UK at the moment. A lot of people sort of jumping on the bandwagon that fan channels are negative and toxic. And I mean, my sentence on this, and maybe people want to call in, and I don't care. That's the whole point. This is the thing. People can do a fan cam. People can do a call in. That's what the channel's there for. It's that platform, or in the live comments. That is what it's for. But what I would say is this, that fan content and the United Stand started off as 2 or 3 of us on a Sunday night doing one show a week on a Google Hangout with 50 people watching. It's not our fault that it's grown to be what it is, but it is still fan-owned, and it's always been fan-owned. Talk Sport just comes across as it's all about money. I think what Talk Sport are fearful of is that they're losing a market to people who do better content than them. And Talk Sport, says to people after a game, should you sack this manager, call in now. And they charge you £1 to phone in. And TalkSport's not owned by fans. It's owned by I think it's ultimately owned by Rupert Murdoch, who's got something to do with Sky. So it's a corporation. It probably employs fans, and there's some really good content creators on TalkSport, but ultimately it's owned by a big corporation. So basically what you've got is some big faceless corporation that supports nobody other than making money against individual fan content channels that are owned by, well, most of them are, some of them, as we know, we're not, is owned by fans of that club. So I'm sorry, my loyalty, whether I get on with DT and Co or whatever, I've got more loyalty to AFTV than I have to this argument that TalkSport and others are trying to put forward. And also, people who say that fan content is toxic and negative, I'll tell you what, I was saying to Flex today, I used to get taken to games by my dad when I was 7, 8, 9, 10, in the late 80s. And there was a lot of hooliganism and everything like there in those days. But ultimately, you would see people on the terrace shouting at the manager, shouting at players, their own players, saying, "You're effing shit, mate. You're no good, sack him." This was in the 80s. How many years ago was that? Some of you weren't even a twinkle in your dad's eye. And, this has been going on for years. What makes me laugh is that people are trying to make out that fan channels have made football fans negative. School, work, pub, train. I've spent my whole life talking about football, being critical of some players, being positive about the others, slating other teams, saying managers need to be sacked. It's always been the same. All that's happened is the platform has come forward where fans really can finally get their say. And of course you do get, I edit a lot of the fan channels. When I edit them, they get loaded up and I have to tag them up and stuff. So I see some of the fan channels before, minutes before they go up on the channel. And I think sometimes I'm like, totally don't agree with that positivity. But on the other hand, sometimes I'll go, I really think they're going overboard with their negativity on that player. But, who am I to decide? It's for you to watch. And that's what it's all about. I just personally think that these people who have a problem with it, especially fans, like, let's say United fans who've got a problem with it, will call in. Go on a fan cam. No, it's not my sort of thing. I can't stand it. Well, don't watch it then and let the people who do enjoy it. But don't try and pretend that the United Stand or any other fan channel is the reason there is negativity around the club. We're owned by people who don't support our club, who bought us on debt. Our chief executive, who is in charge of signing players and all that lot, doesn't support this club, doesn't understand football. So do you think the last 6 years United have been a failure is because of fan channels, or do you think it's because our football club is run badly and we recruited badly and we recruited bad managers? I think we all know the obvious answer to that. I think fans are frustrated at Manchester United for very good reasons, and I don't think that fan channels have got anything to do with that. Mark, I would be surprised if we make any signings in January. Today's press conference is a precursor to it. Ollie said players are coming back from injury, says Moho. Well, you know what? Ole Gunnar Solskjaer himself is going to struggle if he doesn't buy players in January, because we'll see what we saw last season. More injuries, and that squad just is not thin enough. Is not thick enough. Please do smash a like on the video if you're watching live. I'm just going to take another caller now. Let's get Corey on. Hello, Corey, can you hear me? Hello? See if we can get back in again. Hello, you're live on the United Stand.
Hello.
Can you hear me? Hi, mate. How you doing?
Hi, I'm alright, Mark. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. What do you want to talk about, mate?
I want to talk about Pogba.
Yeah, go on then. Go on. Floor's yours.
Alright, I think selling Pogba's a massive mistake. In the summer, I really think we should keep him. Because if we plan to build a team that's going to be good enough to go on and get a top 4 and then eventually challenge, what is the point of replacing a player that's going to be useful for that?
I agree, and I mean, I've said this about Solskjaer. I mean, I don't know. I'll ask you about Solskjaer because obviously that's a relevant bit at the moment. But look, I've never said Ollie out. I think a week ago I was like, I still don't think he's going to be the man to win a title. I've got to be honest, but I want him to be successful for the simple reason that changing another manager who comes in and probably wants to get rid of some of the players and bring more in, it's disruptive, and you're the same. If Pogba goes, you've got to replace him. If Pogba stays and we get the best out of him, you haven't got to replace him. Hello? Oh, he's playing up tonight. That was a shame because I was enjoying that. He has disappeared as well. Bloody hell. I wanted to ask him about Pogba. That's really annoying. Hello, you're live on the United Stand. Can you hear me?
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. You?
Decent.
Good. What do you want to talk about?
Just want to get an opinion on the fan problems at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like at the end of the day, like, the fans ask better questions, in my opinion, because they care about the club. Like at the end of the day, journalists have to ask this to get paid. Like if they're not going to ask, like there's rarely a really good question by journalists because, like at the end of the day, they can't slip up and they have to stick by certain words and certain questions because at the end of the day, it's their job. And then with Flex, like how many good questions did we have? How many good questions did he have compared to some other journalists? And they're actually like questions that we all wanted to know.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, I just feel that fan content is its own beast in many ways. As I said before, I mean, look, obviously I've shared some information that's coming through Pogba, and I'm happy to do that. But I like what you said there. I mean, fan opinion is the best opinion because we care about the club, and you know we started off doing a weekly show, and now it's sometimes 2 a day, but definitely 1 a day. Because there's always something to say as a fan. And it doesn't need to come from the club. It doesn't need to come from the media. There's always something to say because we've always got something to say about the club.
Like, in my opinion, this, like, the United Stand and other channels that might do Discord are a platform to people to have an opinion that they might not have had elsewhere. Like, if you think about it, like, all the people that come on the Discord shows are really invested in Man United. They have a good opinion. And at the end of the day, like, if someone says they don't like Pogba and a cam roller centre mid, we shouldn't go, as you said on one of the streams one time, we shouldn't go at them for it. It's their opinion because we're meant to be a community. As the name says, United. We're united as a fan base.
Well, look, I mean, I've done a lot of jobs in my life, and actually, the best environment to work in is where people disagree, as long as they do it in a respectful way. Because disagreement actually creates better ideas, because it makes people think about pros and cons. Talking of which, United at the moment. Then let's bring it back on track. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. How long are we giving him now? Do you think he's the man? Do you think he can be the man, or do you think ultimately it might not be the man?
I don't think. I think those 2 games were a cover because at the end of the day, like, we were going to park the bus anyways and counter attack. I don't think we would have changed the tactics, and I think the team's played into our hands. And Pep Guardiola is called one of the best coaches in the world, but he's had the resources everywhere he's went, and now he's just like he can't even see that United are going to counter attack, in my opinion. But like Ollie, in my opinion, I don't want him to stay to the end of the season because I don't think he will be good enough. I hope he turns it around. But I think those 2 games have kept him into job even to next January, not a couple of months, to next January, because like they said it themselves, like it's a rebuild. And all he said in the press conference, a few of these players are going to be good and really, really good in a couple of years. Like that tells me straight away, he doesn't expect, he's not going to be sacked. He's going to be here for a long time.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, look, I know we're talking about this information that was told today about Paul Pogba, but what I can say, and I've said it a long, long time, all the information coming out of the club is that they are going to stick with Ollie, they're going to stick with Carrick, they're going to stick with Mike Phelan, and this is the way they want to go, and they'll stubbornly stick with it. And I think you're right. I think you've made a very good point there. I don't think it's about those 2 results keeping Ollie in a job till May. I think he's in a job till this time next year, unless he goes on a really bad run. I think that he can almost eat out on beating Spurs and Man City for another year, because even if we go on a bad February or March, he can be there going, well, look what I did, and that's what will happen in the future.
And exactly, like at the end of the day, Ed Wood, like you all say, like, and I always like watching it a lot. Like Ed Woodward is running everything in this club. Like the Glazers never seem to be interested, so he was probably looking at those 2 games thinking, it's tactical masterclass. We won against the Derby. We won in the Derby. Now, like that's in Ed Woodward's mind is the best thing we could do all season.
What bothers me is, and I said it this morning, is that whilst we're celebrating this little couple of results, even though it's still our worst start to a season in the Premier League, Liverpool are on the verge of, well, they've won the Premier League for me. They're a massive threat. I mean, Arsenal fans are terrified. Their Yorkie Rapper Invincible Cup is in jeopardy. But I'm a little bit worried that, one, I'm disgusted that Liverpool are going to win the league. I've not seen that happen for 30 years. But 2, our treble's on the line. And yet we're talking, United just seem to be sat back with a cigar saying we'll be good in a couple of years. This could be the worst season in our recent history.
Yeah, exactly, because I'm shocked that we're 5th. Like, everyone's been less like as bad like as us inconsistent wise. And I just like to say something about Pogba as well. I don't think Ollie's gonna play with the cam. I think my problem is he's gonna drop Fred and McTominay. Like they might not be tight with the midfielders, but they're the best we got except Pogba, in my opinion. And at the end of the day, like Pogba's, in my opinion, he's gonna play with CDM. And unfortunately, we're gonna have to drop McTominay or Fred when they've had a good run of games for like a while now.
Yeah, I think it's good. Anyway, look, I've got to get other people on, but really appreciate your call, and I think a lot of people in the live comments do as well. So thanks for calling, and please do call in again.
Thanks.
Cheers, pal. I'm just going to grab this person. Dan, can you hear me?
Sure can, big guy.
How you doing? Not heard from you in ages.
I know,
how are
man.
you?
How you been? I've been all right. How are you?
I'm very good. As soon as I saw you in the thing there, I thought we've got to get Dan on. He's used to do watch-alongs with me. We've not had him on the show for a while. So how are you feeling about Manchester United at the moment, Dan? I mean, to be fair, if people don't know Dan, he's over there from the States, and people always think he's negative. He's not. You might be negative. I might be setting you up, and you're going to be negative now. But how are you feeling about United at the moment?
Hey, listen, two wins from the last two, especially difficult games. I'll take that all day long. I think like everybody else, I think we all still have our reservations about the manager. We played our style of football, which is the counter-attacking, set up a little defensive, let teams come at us and win, hit them on the break. But, we're still going to have our questions. We're still going to have our questions about subs and personnel. And hopefully Lingard's not getting a contract renewal. I don't know what the hell he's done to deserve that. So you could help me with that.
What? Just to pick up on, I mean, a lot of people really enjoyed that last caller and his opinion. Please do smash a like on the video for all our callers tonight. Where like I say, I haven't spoke to you in a while. Ollie, this season, were you at a point before that Spurs and City game where you were like, he's not good enough, and do you think he's good enough now, or have you been supportive of him? I mean, what do you think about United long term? Because I spoke to a few people this week, and that. I've said I fully expect us to beat Everton, and I don't see why we wouldn't beat Watford. So that's 4 wins in a row. Why wouldn't we beat Newcastle? And then Burnley and Arsenal, 2 away games, we'll see. But people have said, well, even if those happen, I still don't think he's good enough. He's only all he's got in front of him now is winnable fixtures that he should have been winning all season. Consistently over this season, we won't be in the top 6, and that's not good enough. Where do you feel?
Personally, I think that we've been asking ourselves the same question all year long, which is, like you just said, we're going to have 4 wins in a row. On paper, that's what it looks like. We're going to have 4 wins in a row, but we've had this with the Burnleys and going away to Newcastle, and we've seen it before. So I think what's a really good positive about him is that all the players play for him. I think that's great. But to your point a couple of weeks ago, what you said which is also a negative, they're all playing for him and they're still not good enough.
Yeah.
Which means either the players aren't good enough or something from the top's not working out. Long term, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think he's the solution. I think he's part of the problem in terms of being a yes man for the owners and for your buddy Ed. But the problem with that is that I think that until things change at the top, there's just going to be a bunch of yes men. So, dreams of getting a Pochettino or I even think Ancelotti. I think he's been hard done by Napoli, but somebody like that, I just don't think long term it's the fix. I hope nothing for the best. I want nothing but success for this club. But I don't think do you see this team winning a title with him? Do you see him lifting up a Premier League trophy? Because I don't.
No, I said that after the Man City game. Look, I really hope he does become that, because I've never said the words Ollie out. But what I'm happy to say, and I'll say it right now, is I don't think he's going to win us a Premier League title, and I think that's always got to be the ambition for the biggest club in England. I don't think he will, but I think expectations have lowered so much, and he's loved so much, that people will do what I'm doing and just hope that he can do it. And I think that point you've said there, which obviously I did say a couple of weeks ago, is the worrying thing is these players are playing for him. They're playing their hearts out for him, and yet they're still putting in results. I think it's in some ways it's more scary than Mourinho and Van Gaal, where we knew the players down tools at the end and the results weren't good. But I think if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer beats Everton on Sunday, that'll be his 17th game. It'll put him only 1 point ahead of what Mourinho had, and he got sacked after 17 games, and that was with a team that wasn't playing for him. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting. What's your prediction for the rest of this season for United?
It really depends on if they spend any money in January, who they bring in, if Pogba comes back fit. I know there was some back and forth before about Pogba in or out. And listen, the thing I have to say about the players is, does Pogba make our team better? Yes. Does a player like whether it's Bruno Fernandes or James Maddison make our team better? Yes. You have to look at, affection aside, like an Emre Can, like, does he make our team better? Yes. I don't care where the players come from. I don't care how much they're signing for, if they're mercenaries or not. Are they better than the current crop of what we have? If they tick all the boxes and the answer is yes to that, you got to bring them in, because bringing those types of players in is the only way we're going to get top 4. I think if we keep the same squad we have now, top 4 is not happening. Because they're always one injury away in every position, whether it's forward, right back, left back, wherever. So I think you keep the squad the way it is, 5th is going to be pushing it. If you go out there and make a signing or two, you could realistically get 4th.
Thanks for calling in, Dan. Really good to hear from you, and hope to speak to you soon.
Absolutely, Mark. Take care, pal.
You too. Right, let's see if we can get another caller in. Colin, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Mark. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Anything in particular you want to talk about tonight?
I would like to talk about the January transfer window.
Okay.
So I would like to ask you, what 2 players would you like to sign in January, preferably a midfielder or a striker?
I think it's very... I mean, look, I could tell you 2 players I'd like us to sign, but I'm not going to say them because they're not going to come. So for me, if I could sign 2 players in January, right off the top of my head, I would say Emre Can and Bruno Fernandes, because we need a centre defensive midfielder and we need an attacking midfielder, and I think they're both available, and you'd get them both for around 80 million, which I think is good business for 2 players that are around mid-20s, both internationals, and both would vastly improve our team. I don't think we'll get either of them, but that's what I would do. What about you?
So I would probably get Emre Can, same as you, because I think he's the easiest one to get, because, as you said, he won't cost a lot of money, and he would add a midfielder as a backup if Scott or Fred get injured, because I think Scott and Fred have made a nice, good partnership together. And then I would get a striker, a second striker, to back up for Rashford or Martial, because if they both get injured, then there's going to be a problem. So I'd get Haaland.
I think you're right. I mean, look. I mean, what I think we've basically touched on it there. The priority signings for me are 2 midfielders, but it doesn't stop there. We do need another striker. What do you think about this Haaland guy? Because I watched him last night. Apparently he's had an injury. He is only 19 as well. I mean, look, he's going to have a bad game, and I think he did have a bad game. But this morning, there's a lot of talk about, even from Norway, that United might be in for him. I mean, if he's got that release clause of 20 million, he's not a bad shout.
Yeah, I think it would be a good option for the future, because it's kind of just like a punt in the dark, and you don't actually know whether it's going to work out or not.
Totally different to what we've got as well, isn't he?
Yes, he is, because he's tall and he's fast, and he's a different option to bring off the bench.
Yeah, I mean, look, how confident are you that we'll do any business in January? I mean, I think we could get 3 players in, but I'll tell you what, I'm not going to say I'll eat my shoes, but I'll be very, very, very surprised if we did.
I'd be surprised if we get 1, to be honest, knowing this board with Ed Woodward and them. They surprise you every day, and you don't know when you're actually going to get a signing or not. So, and we take so long to do signings as well, so we'll have to see. And
and where just quickly, where do you stand on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer? What's your December been like? Because at the start of December, we were in a really bad situation. We just drawn to Villa and Sheffield United, and things were looking bad. And then we go and beat Spurs and Man City. Where are you with Ole?
With Ole, I'm probably I want him in all the time. I've always wanted him in because he's the club legend, and how good he did in the first 3 months, I was really happy with him. And then at the Aston Villa game, I was like, oh, this is getting close to Ole out. If he loses to Spurs and Man City, then I'm definitely Ole out. But luckily he pulled it back. But
I think Ed Woodward was Ole out then, to be honest.
Him. Yeah. To be him 100% in, I would want him to beat Watford and Everton in the next 2 games. and then I'll be happy with him again.
It's funny, I was talking to somebody today, and we both agreed that the Everton game is probably the biggest game of Ollie's career. And I would put the Watford game in that, because Watford's... I don't think we can just say the Everton game, because Everton have had a bad season and we're at home. I think you're right. It's Everton and Watford. It's almost like we've got to beat both of those, because if we beat even if we beat Everton and then don't beat Watford, people will still say, well, oh look, we've done it again against the team. And also our away games our games that we've lost this season have been more away. West Ham away, Bournemouth away, Newcastle away. So yeah, you're right. Watford is as important. But I mean, what do you think we will? I mean, as a prediction, do you think we'll win both of those, or are you expecting us to drop points again?
I think we'll definitely win the Everton game, just because it's at home, and I think after the bounce from the Man City game, I think we'll pull through on that one. The Watford game, I think if we have Pogba back, because it's away from home. So I think if we had Pogba back in that cam role, then I think we can win it. But otherwise, I'm not too sure. It will depend on how Watford play against us. If they attack us, then we'll probably win. But if they sit back, then it'll be a draw or a loss, I think.
Okay. Calling from South Africa?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Yeah, you see, there's people in the live comments saying German and all sorts, and I was like, nah, get a lesson in geography. Anyway, look, really, really good call. Really, thanks for calling in, and please do call in again.
No problem. I will do. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Fantastic calls tonight, as ever. It's been too long since the last call in, to be honest. But with games and things going on and me being hungover on Monday, it was worth waiting those 2 days. So I'm really glad that we've done it tonight, because you need a longer show for the call-ins. To be honest, you need longer anyway. They should be 2-hour shows really. But really enjoyed those calls. So please do smash a like in. And the funny thing is, somebody just said it's Irish. Definitely Irish. The great thing about that is we've got people calling in from all over the world. That's what the United Stand's all about. The community is fantastic. And as I said, I actually have worked in a lot of jobs in my life, whether it was policing or private banking or whatever. And the best environments I've worked in is where people disagree, but always with respect. You've got to have respect in those areas, in most jobs anyway, else you'll get kicked out. So I have got no problem with people having different opinions. I've got no problem with people being Ollie out or Ollie in, because I think in the overall conversation we all learn and we all take bits. So this is why I love football. This is why, I used to hate art at school. I think I got an F in art GCSE, but they was my favourite lesson, art. And you know why? Because a couple of lads who weren't in my other lessons for GCSEs, they were in my art lesson, and we used to sit at the back with our Match magazine, and the whole hour lesson was just talking about football. Just the whole lesson every week was just talking about football. He's not good enough. He's good enough. He shouldn't be in the England squad. Blah blah blah. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. And that's been my life, talking about football. And I tell you what, there's never been a time when I've spoken about football where people have sat round all together and gone, yeah, we've got to be positive, we all got to agree, and we've just got to be positive. I'm sure those conversations do go on, but they're not the sort of conversation I want to be in, and I don't think the conversation that really reflects football opinion. We've all got opinion, we've all got our favourites, we've all got our things that annoy us, and that's why I love fan opinion, and I will defend it, whether it's Arsenal Fan TV, Red Men TV. I will defend what we do, because I know the work that goes into it, and I know that all of those outlets are 100% focused on getting people opinions. And as I've said before, Flex at the games, me on the call-ins, everybody's welcome to come on. Even if they want to come on and have a pop, you're welcome to come on. It's really not a problem, because it is about fans and it's about you, and you are the stars of the show as much as I am. But at the end of the day, as I've said before, I'm just your flute, blow me. Realistically, I am just the person who basically opens the show up. This is why we do so much live content, and this is why we interact with the live comments, because you never know where it's going to go. So thanks everybody, and please do smash a like on the video. Really enjoyed it. I must just say as well that Christmas is approaching. I am wearing a Christmas jumper, and if you wanted to get your hands on one for yourself, then I'm just going to show you stuff on the screen now. The link is in the video description for this. It's the top line. We've got the Christmas jumper there. We've got United. We've got the United colours of Mancunia, which is the class of 19 design. We've got t-shirts and jumpers. The Adored one, which is Manchester is Adored or Manchester is Red. Very, very good design on that. 1999 t-shirts. they're all available if you want to get hold of them for Christmas. The link is in the video description. And they're also, what I must say as well is, they're not all just available. They're available in different colours. You can get the Christmas one in forest green or navy, or you can get it in black. And with the United jumper, I think this is available in more colours. You can get it in black, burgundy, or dark heather, which is nice. So the link is in the video description for those. If you want to get hold of one, you can certainly do that. Let me get back on the screen. But really enjoyed the show tonight. Remember, tomorrow it is a watch along. It's a watch along evening. We're playing AZ Alkmaar, so we will be live for that, of course. And yeah, very good show. The Pogba news. You can rest assured that he's not leaving in January, and he will play for us again, unless he comes out with a massive un-Pogba-like thing and says I want to leave. I'm putting in a transfer request in, which won't happen. I'm very, very sure of that. Thanks everyone for watching. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Really good show, and I will see you tomorrow on the watch along. And have a good evening. Big day in the UK tomorrow as well, election day, but also Manchester United versus AZ Alkmaar. See you soon.